Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hoge, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Join my VIP program. It's time. Speak English fluently. Speak English powerfully. Speak English confidently. Speak English effortlessly. Think in English. You'll notice my longtime VIP members, the VIP members who really commit, they focus, they listen to the lessons every day, every month. They are successful. They are successful. They speak English fluently. They're very advanced, very confident English speakers. You also. So join my VIP program today. Join at effortlessenglishclub.com. Join today at effortlessenglishclub.com. Hope you're having a good day today. Welcome. Let's talk more about some of those ideas. Messages from The Alchemist, Part 1. Great book club. Great book club show this weekend. The reason it was great was because it was live, and just the comments, the questions, the quality of the comments and the questions was fantastic. I was very impressed. Really some just fantastic insights, ideas, success stories from you, the Effortless English family. This is why I enjoy doing these shows live, the interaction, because of course I have my own ideas. And The Alchemist has some very clear messages. What's a nice thing about The Alchemist is the messages are very direct, and I have my own ideas about them, which I share with you. That's my job. But this is a team effort, right? We are a team, we are a family, and you, the Effortless English family, added so much, really some great ideas that helped me to think about and understand this section of The Alchemist in a different way, in a deeper way. This is the great thing about, real education, real independent learning, not that stuff they do in school, not schools. Independent learning. See, it's a kind of a team process. And we're all learning together. And it's much more powerful, much more positive, really fantastic. So I just want to thank you, everybody who joined, and even just listening to the recording. You're part of it too, because you share your ideas on social media with me also. On my Gab account, I'm getting more and more comments. Gab.com, AJ Hoge. So thank you very much. Now, Carol had a really great thought and insight, one that I missed, honestly, but one that she noticed, which I think is fantastic, which is that relationship between elders and youth. The relationship between elders and youth. Now, you'll remember that recently I did a show about elders, right? About elders. Elder is a word for an older person, but it has the idea, this word elders in English has also the idea of someone who is wise, W-I-S-E, wise, right? An elder is someone who is older and respected. a respected older person. And why are elders respected? Why are they wise? It's because they have so much life experience. Right? There is knowledge and there's wisdom, and they're different. These two words have different meanings in English. Knowledge is just pure information, really. When we talk about knowledge, knowledge is useful, can be useful. On the other hand, knowledge can also be useless. There's a lot of what we call trivial knowledge in the world now. This is the bad point or the weak point of our information technology, the internet, media. Of course, these things have very strong points and good points. Of course they do. But like many things in life, they also have weak points and bad points that we must be careful of. And the weak point, the bad point of all this information is that we have a lot of useless information. Right? I'll give you a simple example of this. Would be all the celebrity information we get, right? All the huge amounts of news and information and knowledge, indeed knowledge, about these famous people, about their opinions, about their families, about their lives, about the parties they go to, about the clothes they wear and the fashions they wear. All of this stuff. This is knowledge, all right? It's information that you can learn, but it's useless knowledge. It's just a distraction. It has no meaning. It's shallow and meaningless. Of course, there can be useful knowledge also, of course. You can read books and learn about history, and you can learn, computer programming skills, and these are all kinds of knowledge that are useful. But that's different than experience. Experience is something you live. That's the difference, right? Knowledge you can get from a book or a video, right? Some kind of media. You can get knowledge without living it. A clear example of this would be learning about a country. I can get a lot of knowledge about India, right? I can read about India. I know the capital is New Delhi, and I can learn about all the different religions in India, and that Hinduism is the main religion, and that there are two big languages, Hindi and Tamil, and I can read all about the history of India. I can get a huge amount of knowledge about India, but this still, all of that knowledge will still not help me to really, really understand what is India like. To really understand India, I need to go there. If I travel to India, and then I travel around, and I eat Indian food, and I meet Indian people, and I talk to Indian people, and I experience India, right? Then that's more wisdom. I get wisdom, right? The wisdom of living, of life experience is so much more powerful than just knowledge. I am not saying knowledge is bad. I'm saying that knowledge is a tool. Knowledge is useful, but knowledge must be used with wisdom. It must be combined with wisdom. Knowledge without wisdom can lead to a lot of big problems. Right? Because without wisdom, without experience, it's hard to judge knowledge. You must judge knowledge. As I said, some knowledge is useless. Some knowledge is wrong. It's possible to learn a lot of facts and information that are in fact wrong, right? You can study things in a book, in a textbook, but they're wrong. The information is actually wrong. It could be a lie. It could be propaganda. It could just be mistaken. So all of this is possible with knowledge. We can have mistaken knowledge. We can have wrong knowledge. We can have useless knowledge. We can have trivial knowledge that is just kind of gossip, basically. So knowledge must be judged. We have to use our minds to judge knowledge and use it well. How do we judge? That's why we need experience. That's why you need life experience. So now, for example, I can read something about India. And I can judge that information, the news that I read about India. I can judge it now and compare it to my experience of India. And it gives me a better understanding of India. Even from my short travels there, I have a much better understanding of India than an average American who has never been there before. Right? The average American, they only watch the news. That's all they know about India. So they hear a few bad stories about India, for example, and they think, oh, India must be terrible. Right? Maybe those stories are true, but it's not the whole story. But because I've been there 3 different times. In total, I've probably traveled in India about 6 months. That's not a lot, but it's still better than nothing. And those 3 trips to India gave me experience, life experience. Much, much deeper. Experience is always much deeper than just book knowledge. So now, coming back to elders, what we value, what we used to value traditionally, traditional human societies. This is human society everywhere in the world, okay? I don't care. Europe, Africa, Asia, South America, North America, whatever. Elders were always respected. Or at least most elders. It's possible for elders to be foolish, of course. But in the past, this was healthy human society. The elders had a strong and very, very important role, right? They had a very important job in the society. Their job was to advise, right? To give good advice. Often the elders, the oldest in the society, they were not the everyday leaders, right? They didn't make every decision. But they would give their advice. Typically the leaders, the everyday leaders, the really active leaders, were kind of middle-aged. So 40s, 50s, maybe even early 60s, 40s, 50s, 60s. They make good leaders. People who are middle-aged make really good leaders because they have life experience, but they're still got a lot of energy and from youth as well. It's a good combination. It's a good age for being a very active leader. When people start getting older than that, 70s, 80s, and above, traditionally, they would become elders, so they would maybe not be doing the day-to-day work every day, but they would be the advisors for the leaders, and especially with difficult decisions for the society, for the group. People would come and ask the elders for their advice because the elders had so much life experience. The life experience is why they were respected and so important. We have lost this in our modern societies, mostly. This is a sad and terrible thing. Now, we have lost this for 2 different reasons, I'd say. One reason is that Our societies are full of knowledge. We are overwhelmed by information, right? The information revolution, information technology. We have too much information, and most of it's useless and meaningless and trivial, right? Most of the news is... Well, most of the news is now fake. Any news you watch on television, it's almost all fake now. It's half lies and propaganda mostly. So it's a huge amount of information constantly, 24 hours a day, but it's useless information, and indeed it's wrong information. Our schools are full of useless information. Our poor children sit for hours and hours every day for years and years and years learning a whole lot of useless, boring stuff, which is why they are bored with school. So we've got huge amounts of information and knowledge, but what we lack is life experience. At the same time, so many people live boring lives. They don't take chances. They don't look for new experiences. They don't take any risk. They're not like Santiago, right? They just continue to do the same thing every single day. They are too focused on information, 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 and they are not getting experience. In The Alchemist, Santiago, right? He's a shepherd. He's got a sheep. He's got a nice life as a shepherd. A very nice life as a shepherd, walking around Spain outdoors every day, traveling around. Very comfortable life he has. And then he has to make a choice. Do I leave my comfortable life to be an adventurer, to go look for my treasure, to follow my dream, to have a lot of new experiences, and some scary experiences, unknown experiences? That's the hard choice he makes in the beginning. Sadly, in our modern world, most people choose to just be comfortable. It's an easy choice. So they're like Santiago, they're in the same position, but they choose to just be a shepherd forever. They choose to avoid the unknown, avoid risk, avoid new experiences. So they don't really get much life experience. They don't get much wisdom because they're just doing the same exact thing every single day, every single year. They may get older, they get physically older, but they're not getting much wisdom. They get lots and lots of information, lots and lots of knowledge, but they don't get much wisdom because they're not having new experiences, they're not being challenged, they're not taking risks, they don't have the mindset of an adventurer. This is one reason we don't have the same respect for elders anymore. Because honestly, many elders, don't deserve that respect. That's the hard truth. The hard truth is that many older people don't deserve it because they're not wise. They're not wise. They're old fools. They're old and foolish. They're old and childish. And we can feel that. We see it. We can feel it. So we're not going to respect them. We don't respect them just because they're old. Just because somebody's 70 doesn't mean they deserve respect. We didn't respect the number. We respected and we respect the wisdom. It's the wisdom we respect, not just some number. So that's the hard truth. And there are a lot of older people who need to understand that. I do hear a lot of older people complain because young people don't respect old people anymore. Well, older people are partly responsible for that. Because they didn't gain wisdom. They didn't earn it. Now, on the other hand, I said two reasons. And the other reason that we don't have this respect and this strong relationship anymore between elders and youth, this is broken now, And the other reason this relationship is broken is that we have a huge amount of propaganda. It's youth propaganda. We have what's called a youth culture. You know this. So in our media, in our TV, in our movies, in our music, everything worships, promotes, talks about youth. Youth is cool. To be young is cool. Cool. This horrible word, cool, that I hate so much. The culture of cool. So we get this message constantly. Young is great, old is bad. Young is great, old is bad. Young is cool, old is not. This is the other reason. And this has created a terrible mindset in young people, where young people think they know everything, where young people are not humble, where young people think they are cool and that they know everything, and old people are just foolish and they don't know anything. And this is the other side, and this is where the young people are responsible for this problem, because they are so easily fooled. Young people are easier to fool. They have less life experience, so young people typically believe the propaganda more easily. Older people, typically, not all older people, but in general, more older people, they're harder to fool. They've seen the propaganda longer and longer, and more of them wake up, right? I mean, I can say this for myself. I'm much more red pill and awake now at age 50. At age 18, I was totally blue pilled. I believed all the bullshit. Or a lot of it. I won't say all of it, actually, but I believed a lot more of it. I believed more propaganda. I was easier to fool. Now, though, I have a lot more life experience. It's much more difficult to fool me now. I see the propaganda much more clearly now. I am much more red-pilled now. And this is typical. We have a culture that encourages young people to be arrogant, right? Like, I know everything, and it encourages young people not to respect older people. Encourages young people basically to be idiots and act like idiots. So this is the other side that has caused this break, so that young people, even when they meet an elder who is very wise, even when they have older people in their life that are wise, that want to help them, give them advice, the young people don't listen. They're fools. They think, I don't care, you're old, you don't know anything, you don't know all about the cool youth culture, you don't know about all the new cool movies and apps and all this other nonsense that means nothing. All the new fashions, the new music, all that stuff they think is so important, and it's not. It's all meaningless. So this is the other side, where youth is constantly being programmed to not respect elders. So there's the problem and the source of the problem. What do we do? Because this is a very serious problem for our societies. Without this healthy relationship, elders and youth, they both have something to offer, and they need to connect to each other. We need this. When this connection is broken, when elders and youth don't communicate, when elders and youth don't have a good communication, a good relationship, a healthy relationship, when that is broken, our whole society breaks, which is what we have now. We have a broken society. Everywhere in the world we have this. Some places it's very terrible, such as America, and other places it's less terrible, but still, this is an international problem, and we need to fix it. And Carol pointed out how Paulo Coelho really gives us a great positive example of how we can have this positive relationship with elders, older people, and youth. What does it look like? What does the positive relationship look like? In the media and even in our lives, we have a lot of negative examples of broken relationships where older people and younger people are arguing and fighting and they don't agree and they don't listen to each other. That's a lot of negative stuff we get. But what does it look like if it's positive, if it's healthy? And The Alchemist gives us a few examples of this, actually, a couple examples. Later in the book, we'll get a few more. In fact, this whole book, there's several times in this book where we see this great example, where Santiago, the younger person, the young man, connects with an older man in a very positive way that benefits both. So we get this great example again. So this is a message that comes back again and again and again in The Alchemist. Thank you, Carol, for noticing this. Let's talk about the first one again I mentioned in the show, the live show. The first example we get is Santiago and his father. Santiago and his father. And we get I think, a very positive example of how this relationship can work in a positive, good way. You know, sadly, a lot of people have bad relationships with their parents, where it's kind of broken, it's not positive. But he shows us, I think, from both sides how this can work. And, you know, in a relationship, it's at least it's two people, right? So both sides have responsibility to make this relationship work. And in general, in our societies, young people need to change and work on these relationships and do things differently. And elders also need to change. Now, the first thing is, Santiago respects his father, right? He's not a little asshole, okay? He doesn't insult his father, say a bunch of bad stuff to him. No, he loves and respects his dad. He values his dad's opinion. He recognizes his dad is older and wiser than him, has much more life experience, so he values his dad's opinion. He also knows he has this dream, and it's not what his dad wants. So he talks to him, right, in a respectful way. He tells his dad what he wants to do. You know, he says, I understand, Dad, you want me to be a priest, but I just don't want to do it. And this is why. I want to travel. I feel this is my dream, is to travel. So we get a good example for youth here. Respect your parents, respect your elders, and communicate with them honestly. Okay, not with a lot of anger and emotion, right? He doesn't yell at his dad, I want to be a travel, I don't want to be a priest, screw you. He doesn't rebel and act like a little asshole, okay? He talks to his dad like a young man, like a man. He talks to his dad directly and honestly as a young man. So it's a very good example of that. Now, on the other side, we get a great example of the positive role and positive communication, a positive example of an elder. So what does the father do? The father also acts like a man. He doesn't scream and yell, you've got to be a priest, you fool, you can't travel. Travel's for idiots. You'll starve. You won't make any money, right? He doesn't do that. He doesn't act like a child and start screaming and yelling at his son. He doesn't try to control his son. He recognizes that his son is a young man now, and his son has to make these decisions. He's worried about him, of course, but he supports him, right? His role is to support him and to help his son follow that dream, but in a positive way. He wants his son to succeed. So he doesn't try to crush his son. He doesn't yell at him. He doesn't tell him he's stupid and foolish. He listens, and then he talks to him like a man. He's direct and supportive. He says, okay, look, you're not rich. You are not going to travel around like a rich person. You realize this, of course. However, I understand this is your dream. I want to support your dream. And then he gives him good advice, right? His dad is wise because he has more life experience. So he gives him useful, helpful support, useful, helpful advice to support his dream, not to block it. And he says, okay, the best way for a poor person to travel is to be a shepherd. It's a great way to work. It's a great job, a great business for someone to travel around, to be free, even if you're poor. You don't need a lot of money to do this. It's good advice. It's really good advice. And it supports his dream. It doesn't block it. What a great example. I mean, this is what all children want from their parents. I get story all the time. I get comments on Facebook and Gab about, talking from young people about how their parents try to block their dreams and criticize their dreams and force them to do something else. Okay, and then how do the children feel? Well, they get angry. They feel angry. They feel betrayed. It breaks the relationship between the parents and the kids. Okay, parents, you're making a huge mistake when you do that. You are not supporting your children. And you are breaking the relationship when you do that. So when your child has a dream, you got to support it. Support it, and it's a great example from The Alchemist. Support it in a wise way. You don't blindly support it. You don't tell them things that are not true, right? His dad did not say, yeah, great, just travel around, be free. Oh, it'll be so much fun. It's so easy. Do whatever you want. Go for it. No, he was much more specific and helpful, right? He told him the truth. You're not rich, so you can't travel like a rich person. And then he helped him solve the problems. He helped him problem solve. He gave him very useful, practical advice. And then, of course, the next thing, he gave him some money to help him get started. But he didn't do everything for him. He just said, okay, I'm going to give you some money to buy your sheep. And after that, you're a man now. You've got to do it yourself. He doesn't treat him like a little kid. He doesn't do everything for him. He doesn't pay for him to travel around the world and stay in hotels and eat good food. He doesn't do that. No, he helps his child, his young son, well, his young man, be responsible, start a business. It's really good advice. It's a really good advice and a good example. Really, really good example that all parents can learn from. So in this simple story, we get a positive example of both sides. A son who is respectful, who communicates like a young man, not like a little child. And asks and gets very good advice from his father. And we have a father who supports his child's dream, who provides wise and good advice and supports him in a wise and good way, not spoiling him but not blocking his dream. And that right there is just such a great example, I think, for all of us, elders and youth. I mean, I know when I was young, I would have loved that, right? I think all young people, in somewhere deep inside, they really, really need this and want this. They want this. But the reason they get angry and upset with older people is that older people constantly try to block their dreams. So then they don't want to talk to older people. They don't want to talk to them because they know, oh, they're just gonna criticize me. They're just gonna tell me I'm foolish. They're just gonna try to change my mind. So they don't want to say anything. Many young people hide their dream from their older family, from their parents, from their grandparents, or even from other older people. They just hide it because they know, I don't want to hear all the criticism. They're already kind of afraid. They're already worried. It's already tough, and they just don't want to hear that. I can't blame them for that. I understand completely. Now, at the same time, there are some good parents out there who are frustrated with their kids because they really are trying to support their kids. They are trying to support their child's dream, but they're giving good advice. So sometimes young people have these dreams, but they're a little foolish. They think the dream's going to be really easy. Oh, yeah. They just think they can wish it and hope for it, and everything's going to happen, and everything will be great, no problems. And maybe the parents or other older people try to tell them, there's going to be some problems, there are some difficult points about this, and here's some advice, you should be careful about this. And some young people, they don't want to hear that. So they're not respectful. They just say, yeah. They ignore the older people's advice. They don't want to hear it. Even though the older people are supporting them, giving them very useful information and help and advice. But the young people, no. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. And so, guess what happens? The older people just start thinking, well, I'm not going to give him any more advice. He doesn't want to listen to me, or she doesn't want to listen. Just ignoring everything I say. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to support their dream and what they want, but they don't want to listen. So I'm just going to stop giving advice. Forget it. Right? That happens also, and I understand that also. In fact, I understand this very well. I've had this happen in my own life, where I've had some younger people, family members, for example, who've had a dream, start a business or something like that. And they've asked me for advice, and I've given them advice, and I'm supporting their dream. I'm like, yes, that's great. You should start a business. Good for you. And then I'll tell them advice, but I tell them, look, it's not easy. So I say, you need to learn this and this and this, and you need to work hard, and you have to learn new skills. And you've got to do all of this work and all of this work. And so I very clearly tell them what's necessary. And then they don't want to hear it. I can see. They just stop listening because it sounds too difficult. So they stop listening to my advice. And guess what? They fail. They fail because they don't listen. They think they know everything. Yeah. They think they know everything. And they go and they make a lot of stupid mistakes I was trying to tell them not to do, and they just make the mistakes, and then they get upset, and they fail, and they quit, and they never do it again. This has happened in my life a few times. So I understand now. It makes me like, I'm not going to give them any more advice. So we all need to see our responsibility as older people, our responsibility to support young people's dreams in a wise and good way. Not block their dreams, and also not give them lies. And for young people, you need to listen. You need to recognize that you lack life experience, and you need to listen, especially when an older person is really trying to help you, really trying to support your dream and teach you how to achieve it, how to succeed. Okay? It's too many young people, they don't want to hear the problems and the difficulties. They just want to hear everything will be great and easy. Well, life's not like that. So listen to that advice. It's gold. That advice is gold. It is much better than any money. I hope in this way we can gradually, both sides, older and younger, rebuild this important, super important relationship, starting with our own families, and then our whole society in general. Because we can see it's not only parents, it starts with the parents. In The Alchemist, the first relationship is with his father. It's the very first important one, his first big dream to travel. It's his father who helps him. And then later in the story, it's other older wise men. Right? Then the second one is the king magician. The king magician helps him to make that decision to go to Africa, North Africa. Later, we'll see in the next part, there's a man who he's a business owner. He owns a crystal shop, a glass and tea shop owner. And then finally, at the end of the story, there's the alchemist, the name of the book. The alchemist becomes his final elder teacher, elder wise man, guiding, protecting, giving him advice. So every step of this story, Santiago has an elder, right? An elder man, an older man, advising him, helping him. It's a key part of the story. Very, very important. Well, we'll talk more about this later. There are great messages in part one. Just in part one, right? We talked in the show about the importance of mindset, why it's so important to have an adventurer mindset in life. I'm on an adventure. I'm an explorer. I'm an adventurer. Not victim. So when bad things happen, it's part of the adventure. It's not that you're a victim. It's just a choice of mindset. That's all it is. The same event can happen. Any tough event, any difficult event, any problem can happen. And then you have the choice. What does it mean? This was Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, is exactly about this exact same topic, this exact same point. The choice of mindset. The Bhagavad Gita talks about this. The Dhammapada talks about this. The main idea, the central idea, is that we have a great power as human beings. We have a great power, and we also have limitations, right? Our limits are that we're individual human beings, and we have a very limited power. We cannot control the world. We don't control society. We don't control the world. We don't control the weather. We don't right? Most things we can't control. So lots of things can happen to us, and we have no control. We can't stop them. That's the limit. On the other hand, we also have a great power. We have great power. Our great power is over our own minds. That's where our power is. We have the power to control and master our own minds, our emotions, our thoughts, our minds, our mindset, our attitudes. That's the source of our great power. That's where our great power is. And this is the central teaching of the Gita and the Dhammapada both. Right? It's your mind. That's where the power is. That's what the alchemist is teaching. That final choice, victim or adventurer. Well, basically that's the choice. How will I control my mind? The same event, right? He can't control the event. The event is finished. The thief stole his money. He made a mistake, of course, trusting this guy, but it's over. It's finished. No control. He can't control that now. He can't control the past. The past is done. But he has control over his own mind. He can decide the meaning. He can decide his attitude about this event. He can decide, do I choose to think like a victim, to feel like a victim? Is that the meaning I choose, the mindset I choose? Or do I choose to think like an adventurer, have the mindset of an adventurer? It's just about controlling his mind. That's what it is. That's where his power is. He chooses power. This is why victims are so weak, because victims are choosing weakness. Why? They're choosing to focus on something they can never control. They will always be unhappy and feel weak because of this, right? If you choose to focus on, oh, somebody did something bad to me, I'm a victim. Well, now you're focused on the other person. You're focused on that person and all the bad things they did, and you blame them, and you constantly think about how they cheated you and lied to you, and you think about it all the time. You are becoming weak because you are focusing, you're trying to control something you can never control, another person. You can say many bad things about them, you can hate them, but you'll never change them. You have zero control over them. So you are focusing on something where you have zero power, zero control. This will make you weaker and weaker, more and more unhappy. On the other hand, you can focus on your mind, your own mind. Forget the other person. Okay, you learn, oh, I got cheated. You got to learn from that. I got to be more careful. But then you focus on your own mind, controlling your own mind, your own emotions, thinking like an adventurer, focusing on learning, moving forward, focusing on now, not the past. And in this way, you grow stronger and more powerful, because now you're focusing where your true power is. Your true power is always in your own mind. Always, always, always. Not outside. It's your own mind where the power is. Okay, I'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day. As always, join my VIP program. Think in English, speak English powerfully, speak fluently, speak effortlessly, commit, and just do it. Join my VIP program today. Join today at effortlessenglishclub.com. Join now at effortlessenglishclub.com.